But you'll notice, I think, that almost everything I write has humour in it. Learn from the best. Hitch. Even Psycho, if you see it the second time, is quite amusing. He did it all and did it first. And I know he's made some pictures that are not as good as others, but in every Hitchcock picture there is a moment where you think, God, I wish I'd thought of that. I was a big fan of a director called Dennis Vance, who was like the Orson Welles of television. And I wrote a script, which I've still got somewhere, called Murder Anonymous, which was silent. And I got a friend to compose the music, and I designed the sets and sent them all to him. And he came back and he said, well, it would cost too much. We'd need about 90 cameras to make this. He said, but it's obvious you can write, so come in, be my guest for lunch and see what we can do. So I went out to the BBC Centre and had a very good lunch and then wandered around the studios, and I came back with the conclusion that just as it is today, they had no bloody money. So I went away and wrote a thriller about two men in a railway carriage, and they made it. I could have second guessed myself and made it one man in a phone booth. And writing at high speed was because of the working for the Danzig. They wanted me to write an 80-minute script every 2 weeks. They said there's no mystique to writing. It's ask a chair, pen to paper. I guess I'm the only British writer that I can think of who got the sort of training that American writers like Ben Hecht got in early Hollywood. You know, you think on your feet. And some of the best screenplays have been written in a week. I wrote Telltale Heart for the Danzigers, and it really is a very good film. Wonderfully acted. Because of the cheapness of their shooting, it's perfectly adapted to a kind of little horror film. And that was a challenge because it's a 75-minute movie, and the actual story, the Edgar Allan Poe story, is about 3 pages. Yes. I always believe that the only way to become a writer is to see a lot of very good films and understand why they're good. The way I work is I sit at the typewriter and write little telegrams so that you block it complete. I think Hitch works the same way, actually. You start with go from A to Z, and because I did that on every Avengers. People would come in with an idea and I'd sit them down and I would type the telegrams. And the idea was that when it was finished, I'd quickly make a copy, give one to the writer, and I'd keep one. And my theory was that if he stepped outside the front door and got run down by a bus, I could write it. That never happened, but although it did in retrospect, because sometimes I'd get the script back and it ignored everything we said. Because it wasn't just telegrams. If a line of dialogue suggested itself, you wrote that in, because dialogue's a very transitory thing. You want to get it down quick. The Avengers, all I remember is laughing all the time, working 18 hours a day and loving every minute of it. Really great experience. Lots of nice people and lots of fun. And I would have done it for nothing, but I didn't tell them that. I always fancied honour more than that. They're all good to work with. Diana was perfect to work with. And Linda was, although she had her problems because she was so inexperienced. You soon get experience though. I mean, by the time she'd finished, she'd made the equivalent of 5 feature films. Dennis Spooner, who I love dearly, who's a lovely man. And not a day goes by I don't miss him. But he was a terrific guy to collaborate with. When we sat down to write our first farce, he thought, I'm going to tape it so that it's there for, forever, for posterity. And the process, while we're talking about it and writing it down.
Yeah.
And later on he played it to his wife, and she said, it's just you and Brian laughing. Because we had such a rapport that I could say to him, we want a bit of that opening of Ben-Hur, and we'll follow it through with the Bob Mitchell in the Cape, and he'd know exactly what I was talking about. And Soon the Darkness was written in 2 days and never changed. It was basically my idea because I'd driven through France times and also through America. You get these long roads and you don't see a car coming that way or behind you, and you think, gosh, if I broke down now, what would happen? Or if somebody came alongside and shot me, who would know? So out of that grew And Soon the Darkness. Kronos, well, it was going to be, I hoped, a runner like Frankenstein or Dracula, isn't it? Just go on and on. Michael Carreras didn't like it. And of course it was all going downhill, but now in hindsight, when they write books about it, they say if only they'd followed the Kronos route, they might still be in business. They are still in business, of course, and there is talk of remaking Kronos. I enjoy thriller because anthology liberates you. I scare myself. Whatever scares me, I'm pretty sure it's going to scare a big chunk of the nation. And monsters don't scare me. But lying in bed and hearing the back door open, that scares me. And you're sure you locked it, but you hear the thing go up. Because once you've imagined that, you're imagining footsteps on the stairs. We tested a lot of young men, and initially it was going to be John Finch, and then came to me and said, of course, I can't play an ex-copper. And I thought, if he's giving me trouble now before we've turned a foot of film, he's going to be deadly. So we canned that, and we then cast Martin and Anthony Andrews, and we shot some of them, 2 or 3 days shooting, and it became evident they weren't Black and Decker. They were almost alike in attitude, and I needed that sort of rivalry. But all those things need rivalry, both going for the same girl or whatever. It's all part of the drama. And so we regrettably, Anthony Andrews, great actor, but we had to say, sorry, but you're not right. And then we tested some more people, and Lewis was right. And it's funny because a lot of people think they're together because they were in New Avengers together. But that hadn't crossed my mind at all. Ideas have always been easy for me, thank God. I mean, I've got about 40 ideas that I probably won't be around to complete. And I love working. Yeah. Somebody once interviewed me and said, what do you do when you're not writing? I said, I write.